We will get to those stories in just a minute, but we start tonight tracking some storms in the area.
Looking at the radar, you see some storms still lingering after a storm rushed through this evening. Chief Meteorologist Jeff Lawson has a look at what we can expect overnight and into the morning. Jeff.
Yeah, we're going to look for a few downpours. If you were watching at 4:30 to 6:30 or 4 to 6:30, we were talking about stuff filling in terms of the coverage during the late evening. That has happened. We've had several different rounds of showers and storms move through, and we're not completely done with it yet. You can see one line that moved through, and actually there was one even before that. This is only the last 3 hours. And then here's the next one starting to move in. Lots of lightning and thunder with it, and you can see this one still has a pretty potent little cell associated with it as it moves across Smithfield and Muddy Cross back down toward Windsor, heading to the east right now at about 20 miles per hour. Here's how much rain has already fallen according to radar, and the estimates are usually very close. Right along the coastline here in Virginia Beach, about 1 inch. Offshore, had reports when I did this sampling of about 1.5 to 2 inches, but again, on the shore, only about 1 inch. Number of spots with anywhere from nothing to maybe a couple of tenths of an inch, but then over Newport News, about 1.5. Out there, 1.4 inches south of Ivor and a little bit north of Franklin. So there were pockets of heavier, and there's up on the Pocosin area, a little northwest of there, about 3/4 of an inch. So it was hit and miss, but a number of areas stayed rather wet and are going to stay wet at times the next few hours. By morning, that's the good news. Only North Carolina has a significant chance of rain. The rest of us, pretty low odds. The rest of the day, cooler air because of the front, and that's what I'll talk about. And how long it lasts, that's all coming up.
Thanks, Jeff. You can monitor changes in the weather anytime using the 13 News Now app. Go to 13newsnow.com to download it for free.
Developing tonight in Virginia Beach, we're working to learn more about a serious car crash. It happened this afternoon on Holland Road near Diana Leave Drive. 13 News Now reporter Chanuher explains the chaotic scene.
Well, yeah, Regina, this scene had different emergency vehicles out there, from an ambulance to multiple police cars and even canine officer cars. Witnesses say they couldn't believe how all of this unfolded.
Definitely, 100%. He could have killed somebody.
It was a messy scene on Holland Road Wednesday, a crash that appeared to involve multiple cars. Witnesses stood by and watched as it unfolded.
There's 3 or 4 vehicles demolished over there.
Look at those cars over there. Those cars are really bad.
Cars at the scene were bashed in, and from the sidewalk, you could see people treated for injuries.
One guy just left on a stretcher, and there's 2 other people with neck braces. He done some damage. He hurt a lot of people.
Virginia Beach Police confirms it was in fact an accident with injuries, but did not confirm anything else beyond that. However, on scene, 13 News Now saw someone put in handcuffs, and multiple witnesses did too.
He got out and ran into here. And thank gosh those gentlemen over there saw him run in here, because they would have no idea, but they saw him run in there.
The law was wrestling with him and pepper sprayed himself and him. And he ran to that light pole and ran down the side of the road. He didn't make it very far, though. He only made it down there.
Witnesses say they didn't like seeing this because it put lots of people in danger, but they're glad police reacted quickly.
Could have been a child in there, a little baby. I got a 1-year-old. Could have been a dead child over there.
All right, and we have been in touch with police, and we're still waiting to hear more details about what led to this crash, and if the person in handcuffs earlier will face any charges. Of course, we'll keep you updated right here on 13 News Now when we find out more. Chanuher, 13 News Now.
Gates County Sheriff Randy Hathaway has stepped down. It comes 6 months after he and 3 deputies were hit with criminal charges of obtaining property by false pretense. There was a civil suit that would have removed him from office if he didn't leave on his own, but that has been dropped. Hathaway says he left because of recent primary results and stress on his family.
New at 11, a Navy sailor is serving time for having sex with a minor. 23-year-old Salim Forbes was sentenced today. Court documents show Forbes had a 2-year online relationship with a 13-year-old girl. The two started messaging each other in 2015 and in March of last year. He took leave from his Navy command in Hampton Roads and went to Louisiana to meet the girl in person. The NCIS said he also got child porn before he went to Louisiana. Forbes is set to spend 7 years in prison.
New tonight, an unusually high number of police cars circled Thomas Nelson Community College today. Comes in response to a threat that was found written on a wall in one of the buildings on the Hampton campus yesterday. 13 News Now reporter Robert Boyd has the story.
Well, David, tonight I spoke with students, parents, and faculty who say anytime there's a threat this day and age, it must be taken seriously. And until this investigation is over, they're happy to see plenty of police officers on their way to class. Shelby Armstrong is supposed to be focused on her Wednesday night human services class, but she says it's hard not to be distracted by the unusual amount of police cars passing back and forth.
I was kind of scared at first. I didn't really want to show up today. You know, you have to take things like that really seriously.
On Tuesday afternoon, police were alerted about a threat that was found written on a wall in one of the buildings on their Hampton campus. The threat has since been wiped clean, and they are not releasing exactly what it said.
In this day and age, we take every threat as serious until the investigation deems it otherwise.
The college immediately got proactive, alerting their students of the threat and calling in Hampton City Police as well as state police for extra backup.
But I can certainly assure you that all the additional precautions are simply those precautions.
During the summer, there could be upwards of 400 students a day walking these grounds.
Seeing the presence of the police here at least gives me some comfort that whatever was going on is being taken care of at this point.
But just to be extra safe, David Porco will be keeping a close watch of his own in the parking lot while his daughter attends class.
Before I drive away, I want to at least have some understanding of what's happening.
As for Shelby, she says one thing students can't do is allow this threat to interfere with what's important.
I tell my mom every day, like, hey, you know, today I might go to school and something might happen, but at the end of the day, I want to get my education.
Now, police say this is an important reminder. If you see something, say something. If anyone out there has any information on this case, you're being urged to call Thomas Nelson Community College. Robert Boyd, 13 News Now.
New at 11, state lawmakers toured a Central Virginia high school to learn more about how to keep schools all across the state safer. They're part of a House committee that is tackling the topic, among them Delegate Mike Mullen of Newport News. The bipartisan committee says it wants a comprehensive approach to safety.
It's not just school shootings, it's bullying, discrimination, day-to-day violence. We should be looking at, education in the classroom. We should be looking at the school community interaction. We should be looking at gun policy. We should be looking at all these things.
The goal is for these lawmakers to suggest improvements that the General Assembly can take up next year.
New video was presented in court today as the man accused of shooting into a crowd of people at the oceanfront made his first appearance by video. Police say that's Ladarius Trisvan walking along Atlantic Avenue right there early in the morning of July 5th. Seconds later, shots ring out, although the video doesn't show who pulled the trigger. Investigators tell us shop owners recognized Trisvan as the shooter. 6 people were hurt in that shooting but have since been released from the hospital. The 21-year-old suspect is due back in court Friday for a bond hearing.
Right now, 2 people are in the hospital with life-threatening injuries after a car crash just before midnight Tuesday. It happened on Virginia Beach Boulevard at Wexford Drive. A motorcyclist was killed when police say he was speeding and collided with a car. The 2 people in the hospital we are told were in that car. Authorities haven't identified anyone involved.
It was an 85-year-old man who died when the helicopter he was flying crashed into a row of townhomes in Williamsburg over the weekend. That's coming from state police, who identified him as Henry Schwartz. He's from Alexandria and died in the crash. Investigators are still looking into why the helicopter crashed. One other person died, 91-year-old Jean Denelko. She was in one of those townhouses.
The number of children dying in Virginia is disturbingly high, especially here in the southeast part of the state. The most common causes of death are abuse, neglect, and unsafe sleeping habits. Between June 2016 and June 2017, 42 kids in the southeastern part of Virginia died. 18 had sleep-related causes of death. 16 of them were victims of abuse or neglect. Most of those children were under the care of their parents or a caretaker, and almost all were younger than 3 years old.
There should be ongoing efforts in our region to prevent the deaths of children.
We mentioned many of these children died because of sleep-related problems. There's a group called Sleep Tight Hampton Roads that teaches parents about proper sleeping habits and even gives away free cribs. To learn more, go to 13newsnow.com.